I want to thank our reader, Tom Tarver, for the great reading today, and Gary Lynn Floyd and our CSL music team for the wonderful music that supports our message. Today, in addition to honoring fathers, we're continuing our month of June on Wholeness and Health with our message, Honoring the Sacred Masculine. Now, it's important that you recognize that we're talking about the archetype of the father, the protector, the provider, the teacher, the doer, the guide. And most importantly, today is about recognizing that masculine energy that lives in each one of us, regardless of our gender. In Genesis 1:27, we read, "In the beginning, God created man in his image. Male and female, he created them." Did you know in Hebrew, the word Adam didn't mean man, it meant human. The masculine and feminine were one. That's the heart of our message today, that we all have masculine energy. We have that strength and the courage and all those other traits that we typically associate with males. As you ponder your masculine energy, let me give you your question for the week. What is the one choice you might make today to embrace compassion for all fathers, to remember masculine energy serves and protects, and to know strength does not mean force? One more time. What is the one choice you might make today to embrace compassion for all fathers, to remember masculine energy serves and protects, and to know strength does not mean force? Since it's Father's Day, let me begin by saying whether you are a father, had a father, never knew your father, this day is about honoring something deeper than biology. From what I hear, I'm well aware that my experience with my daddy is not the norm. Of course, many young ladies would believe their daddies to be heroes and protectors. And some of us did have fathers who were heroes. Some of us just had fathers who happened to be human, and others had no father present at all. In Exodus 20:12, it makes no distinction. It just says, honor your father. So honor your father today, not because he was perfect, but because he gave you life. And through him, you're here on this planet. And if your relationship with your father was not what you wanted it to be, you can choose today to heal that relationship, whether he's alive or not. And in healing that relationship, you can heal your relationship with the masculine by releasing judgment and calling in compassion. That healing takes form as forgiveness, the ultimate act of divine masculinity. A Course in Miracles says, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Forgiveness is strength choosing peace. Forgiveness can set us free. So let us make a choice today to forgive our fathers, for even the best ones weren't perfect. And by the way, in that forgiveness, we might include ourselves for not being perfect and perhaps judging others for their imperfections. Why do you think the spiritual dad brought a ladder to church? Because he heard the sermon was on a higher level. Once we are aware and forgive the masculine energy, we might notice that it serves and protects. The sacred masculine, those inner qualities of the masculine and the divine that we all have, are not macho or domination or bravado. Sacred masculine is about direction and focus, wisdom and discernment, courage and protection, initiation and action. We have the ability to focus and direct our lives and help others with our wisdom and discernment to focus and direct their own lives. Ernest Holmes wrote, "The masculine principle is the directive, forward-moving seed of thought. It is initiative, will, and law in action." It takes courage to move forward into those unknown times in our lives. And we have to take initiative when we're facing a challenge or change in our lives and take action with courage and with conviction. Long ago in ancient India, a great battle was about to begin. And the battle wasn't a conflict just between two armies, it was between two sides of the same family. One side was noble and just, and the other side greedy and corrupt. Arjuna, one of the greatest warriors of his time, stood at the front of the noble side. Clad in armor and armed with his bow, his chariot was gleaming in the rising sun. He looked across the battlefield, and then he froze. He saw familiar faces in the enemy ranks, uncles and teachers and cousins and men who he had loved and learned from. And in that moment, he thought he couldn't move forward. His heart sank, so he turned to his charioteer, who happened to be Krishna, the Lord of the universe in human form. And he said, "Krishna, I can't do this. My hands are trembling, my mouth is dry, my mind is clouded. How can I kill those people that I've loved? It's better that I lay down my weapons than commit that sin." And there, in the middle of the battlefield, the warrior broke down. He wasn't weak. He was deeply human, and he was in a spiritual crisis. And then Krishna spoke, not as a friend, but coming from divine wisdom. "You grieve for those who need no grieving. You speak with words, but your sorrow blinds you. This body is not who you are. The self within was never born and will never die. Your duty is to act, not because of what you feel, but because of who you are." Remembering now that Arjuna was noble. Krishna wasn't urging mindless violence. He was calling Arjuna to right action, free of ego and fear or guilt. And he said, "You have the right to your actions, but not to the fruits of your actions." And Arjuna realized in that moment that the battle wasn't just out there, it was within him. Could he be with purpose, but without attachment? Could he lead without hatred? Could he serve a greater truth than his personal comfort? Krishna smiled and said, "Surrender and you shall find peace." And Arjuna did just that. He picked up his bow, not with rage, but with clarity, not to destroy, but to protect Dharma, to protect that cosmic order, the righteousness, the sacred duty, those things that are noble. This story is about the battle within each of us between fear and purpose, between confusion and clarity. And Arjuna is us when we doubt ourselves and when the path ahead is fogged with emotion. Krishna is that sacred masculine within us, the still commanding voice that says, "Do what you were made to do, and do it without ego. Do it from love." That's the highest expression, not domination, but dedication, and not avoidance, but alignment with the truth. So here's a spiritual practice you can try. Take purposeful action. Choose one area of your life where you've been drifting or maybe undecided, and set a clear intention, and then take one action this week towards that intention. In James 2:17, we read, "Faith without works is dead." So use your masculine energy to express your desires and your truth, and thus increase your faith. Now, Sue reminds us, the best man is like water. Water benefits all things and does not compete. Think of the power of water. It can flow over and around rocks, and it can create things as magnificent as the Grand Canyon. Even on the surface, when it looks chaotic, deep down it's still and calm. And masculine energy, when awakened spiritually, serves and uplifts and protects, not with control, but with deep presence and purpose. Here's another spiritual practice for you: holding space for others. The masculine doesn't always fix, it listens and holds and supports. So make your spiritual practice this week to simply listen without interrupting or advising or rescuing. Just listen. Be the rock that holds the space for another person to discover their own path. To listen deeply is to become a vessel for spirit to move through you. I have to say, my daddy was great at listening. He did advise me and told me that I could do anything I put my mind to, and I believed him because he listened to what I had to say. The sacred masculine is also about learning to receive, to soften and to be still, and to hold space without fixing or controlling. True masculine energy isn't about speaking louder or being right. It's about presence, attunement, reverence. So when you think of the sacred masculine, don't limit yourself to thoughts of males or even to just God. Rather, think of those inner masculine qualities of the divine that live in you. We do all have those masculine qualities within us, that unshakable quality that has us moving forward into the galaxy of our lives that sometimes do seem far, far away. Even Buddha in his teachings honored both energies. Just as a mountain is unmoved by the wind, so too is the wise person unmoved by praise or blame. Notice Buddha said wise person, not wise man. Admittedly, masculine energy can get distorted, most often when misunderstood, suppressed, or exaggerated. When it's suppressed, it might appear as passivity, avoidance, perhaps even lack of leadership. And when it's exaggerated, it might appear as aggression or domination or emotional disconnection. A Course in Miracles tells us this: only the mind can produce fear. It does so whenever it is conflicted in what it wants. When we're conflicted about masculinity, either forcing it or worshiping it, suppressing it or exaggerating it, we get imbalanced. But healed masculinity is clear and purposeful presence. So today, let's allow compassion and forgiveness to heal anything related to fathers or to our masculine side. The story about Arjuna shows us that strength is not about force. It's about staying in the truth of who we are in all circumstances, even those ones that seem difficult, and coming from a place of being noble, not being greedy or corrupt, and having no expectations of awards. Often staying in the truth requires us to stand up for our principles when something important to us is being challenged. So here's a question for you. Is there a place in your life where you're possibly hesitating to act because of fear or guilt or confusion? If so, listen for the inner Krishna, the divine voice that reminds you of your sacred duty to stand up for your principles. Katherine Economou says, true masculine energy protects the sacred, not the self. It stands not in force, but in rootedness. In the meditation today, I invited you to be rooted in the earth, to feel the energy of the earth. And now I invite you to be rooted in spirit, in that amazing light of who you are. So here's another spiritual practice you can try. Protect what's sacred. Stand up for someone or something that's vulnerable this week. Masculine energy guards the innocent, not with violence, but with presence. So the way you might do this is to write down what really matters most to you and who or what might need your protection. So as I wrap things up, let's now affirm to honor our masculine energy, to act with courage, to lead with love, to protect what is sacred, and to listen with strength. Ernest Holmes says, God is personal to all who feel the indwelling presence. And Jesus called God Abba, which really means Papa. So let us bless our fathers, those present, those gone, those who weren't in our lives, and the Divine Father who dwells in each of us. So in summary, how might you learn to honor that sacred masculine that's in you this week? Well, embrace compassion for all fathers. Accept your earthly father for giving you life, and let forgiveness set you free. Remember that masculine energy serves and protects. Direct and focus your life with wisdom and discernment. And like Arjuna, have courage to protect, to initiate, and to take action. Know that strength does not mean force. Be like water, benefit all things, and do not compete. Hold space for others. Listen and be present and support. And stay rooted in the truth of who you are and act accordingly. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so willingly, energetically, and effortlessly embrace compassion for all fathers? Remember, masculine energy serves and protects. And no, strength does not mean force. So your challenge this week is to make a conscious choice to honor your sacred masculine, those inner qualities of the divine that serve and protect what you hold sacred and dear. And commit to using compassion and forgiveness and remembering human fathers are not perfect. And I would invite you to adopt a couple practices that enhance your masculine energy and use that energy wisely. Let's pray. So we take a deep, nourishing breath and we just move into a prayer that honors the sacred masculine so that we can know how to engage it. Divine presence. May each of us remember to walk in the holiness of our divine nature, to breathe in all of our masculine qualities, and to rise each day, aligning ourselves with the truth of who we are. What I know to be the truth is that each of us was here today to learn something about our divine masculine, our sacred masculine energy, and to live from that energy, to embrace it, and to know the truth of who we are. I know each of us is the embodiment of divine love, living in peace and calm and joy. So we just ask the divine to guide our steps with the wisdom, to fill our days with gentleness, to allow us to protect and serve, and to let each of us be rooted in peace and lifted by love, choosing to live in the divine alignment of the truth of who we are. So I'm grateful that you chose to spend some time with us today. Grateful that we can go forth today with joy and courage and an open heart, knowing that we each, regardless of gender, have all of those qualities of the masculine living within us. And it's from great gratitude that I release these prayers into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing they're already done. The yes has already been said, so I can say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. And thanks to each of you who have been supporting us and sending in your donations. I am so very grateful. Enjoy our offertory song.